In the heart of Alaska, far beyond the reach of cell towers and city lights, there lived a man named Ethan Cole. For most of his life, Ethan had lived just like everyone else. Wake up, work, repeat. He'd been a construction engineer, a husband, a father, and a man who once believed that life's purpose was found in building something bigger than himself. But one winter night, everything fell apart. It began with a call from the hospital. A car accident, black ice, no survivors. His wife and only son were gone. The world went silent. Ethan tried to continue, but every sound in the city reminded him of them. The car horns, the laughter of children, the clatter of coffee cups. Each noise was a reminder that life went on for others, but not for him. So one morning he packed a single backpack, left a note on his kitchen counter, and vanished. He drove north as far as the roads would take him. When asphalt turned to dirt, and dirt turned to wilderness, he walked, and there, deep inside the Alaskan wild, Ethan stopped. That was 12 years ago. Ethan built a small cabin near a frozen lake using fallen logs and a rusted axe he'd found at an abandoned ranger post. The roof leaked at first, the fire smoked too much, and he burned his hands more times than he could count. But slowly, he learned to make fire. Without matches, he learned the difference between snow that could be melted for water and snow that carried ash from forest fires. He learned how to listen to silence, not as emptiness, but as a language. The first winter almost killed him. Nights dropped below 30 degrees. Wolves circled his cabin. His food ran out. Once, he collapsed while trying to split firewood, his body shaking from hunger. He lay there for hours, staring up at the endless white sky, waiting to die. But a voice, his son's voice, faint and impossible, seemed to whisper, "Get up, Dad." And so he did. He found strength he didn't know he had. He set traps, caught fish through the ice, and built a better fire. Survival became his only prayer. Spring arrived like a rebirth. The snow melted, the trees dripped with new life, and Ethan began to write. He carved his thoughts into pieces of birch bark. Simple sentences. Today I saw a bear. He didn't see me. The forest forgives me more than people ever did. If silence is a god, I have been blessed. Sometimes he spoke aloud just to hear his own voice. Other times he listened to the wind whisper through the pines and pretended it was his wife humming. As years passed, Ethan became part of the land. The animals no longer feared him. A red fox often slept near his porch. Ravens gathered when he fished, waiting for leftovers. He had stopped being an intruder. He was now one of them. But solitude, no matter how peaceful, can weigh heavy. There were nights when Ethan stared at the stars and wondered if anyone, anywhere, remembered him. He thought of the city he left behind, of people scrolling through phones, chasing noise, never noticing how beautiful silence could be. One summer evening, Ethan heard an unfamiliar sound, the rumble of an engine. He hadn't heard one in over a decade. Through the trees came a young man on an ATV, wearing a ranger's jacket and holding a radio. "Sir, are you Ethan Cole?" Ethan froze. His heart pounded. That name felt foreign, like a ghost from another life. The ranger continued, "There's been talk, rumors about a hermit living in the forest. I was sent to check." Ethan said nothing. The ranger offered him food, asked if he needed help. But Ethan only replied, "I have everything I need." The young man looked around at the cabin. The rough logs, the handmade tools, the quiet perfection of a life stripped to its bones. He seemed both amazed and sad. "Why live out here alone?" the ranger finally asked. Ethan stared at the fading sun and said softly, "Because out here, I can hear them." The ranger didn't understand, but he nodded respectfully and left. That night, Ethan sat by the fire, holding a worn photograph of his wife and son. He whispered, "They found me again." Months later, lightning struck near his valley. The forest caught fire, angry, unstoppable. Smoke filled the sky. Flames devoured everything. Ethan tried to fight it, but nature is not kind. The cabin he built with his own hands burned to ashes. He fled toward the lake, his lungs screaming for air. The reflection of fire on water looked like the sky itself was bleeding. He stood there, barefoot, coughing, trembling, but alive. And in that moment, something shifted inside him. He realized that even after losing everything twice, his family, his home, he was still here. Maybe that was the point. When the fire ended, the forest was silent again, charred but not dead. New sprouts of green began to grow between the ashes. Life returning, stubborn and quiet. Ethan knew it was time. He packed a small bag, took the photo, and began walking south. For days he followed the river until he reached a small town. He walked into a diner, his beard long, his eyes hollow but kind. People stared. A woman behind the counter asked, "Sir, where have you come from?" Ethan smiled faintly. "From the silence," he said. Over the next weeks, he told pieces of his story to anyone who would listen, not to gain fame, but to remind people of what he had learned. That peace doesn't live in the noise of cities, but in the spaces where the heart learns to breathe again. He became somewhat of a legend. Journalists called him the Hermit of Alaska, but he didn't care. For Ethan, the true miracle was not surviving the wild, it was surviving grief. In his final interview, he said, "The jungle didn't take me away from life. It brought me back to it." And that was Ethan Cole's quiet truth. The man who lost everything but found himself in the heart of the wilderness.